do that.
Yeah, just real quick, every workshop, we are evaluation forms. They're evaluation forms for the whole day. So if you would give us feedback, we're always looking for ways to make this conference better every year. And so these are available.
Awesome. So we're going to pass these, and with thank you to every public school teacher in the crowd that has taught me, don't pass out things if you were beginning the process because they won't pay attention to you. So I have 7 minutes. Each of us are doing 7 minutes or less as a framing, and then we're going to get into a collective conversation. My 7 minutes haven't started because just as Jonathan talked about the eval form, this thing that I'm going to do next is to give you a sign-up sheet and invite you, if you are not getting specifically emails. If you're in touch with us on Facebook, awesome, but we don't actually, you're not in our database. If you're vibing on what you're hearing so far, and you want to actually be connected with Cooperation Humboldt and the work that we're doing, I'm asking for name, telephone number, email, and a physical address so that we can be in touch with you. And if you don't want to be a part of Cooperation Humboldt or the work we're doing, that's fine. Just pass it. No shame. I mean, I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to be with some people, but you don't have to be. But if you are going to sign up, then I will ask this. And if you are not sure, if you're not getting emails from us, go ahead and put it on there. Our database system will recognize the email and not add you twice. But if you are going to sign up, print legibly. I'm going to now do in 5 minutes my opening. So I'm a revolutionary, but I also engage in electoral politics. I engage in electoral politics because I know that for 90% of the people in the United States of America, when you talk about politics, they think about elections. I suspect everybody in this circle already knows that politics are far beyond elections. The decision that you made about what to eat this morning was a political decision. How you got here, Len, your transportation was a political decision. There's not a single thing that we do in a society that's not a political decision. So when I talk about politics, I know that politics far transcends elections, and I often say, my vision, my dreams for a new society, it won't fit on a ballot. Right? I know that I have to do much more and further than merely voting, but I know this. If I am a revolutionary and I want to be part of a transformational change and I don't engage in elections, I'm missing an opportunity. Because the opportunity in elections is where, for almost all people, they think about politics, and here's something else. And I tell my anarchist friends all the time, you may not believe in the state, but the state believes in you. Yeah, that's a good phrase, right? My point is this, that elections are where the state legitimizes itself. We make a mistake if we do not contest in elections as the narrative, the vision for what is possible. And so, yes to elections, and I am a social change agent and a revolutionary. And why art? Because I will tell you, my study of world history, my study of U.S. history, there's never been a single successful social movement that did not have art and culture integral into what it is. In fact, I will suggest to you one way to know that you have something more than an analysis and you actually have a social movement is the social movement begins to be manifested in poems, in dance, in painting, in sculpture, in stories, like in theater work. The reality is that there has never been a successful social movement or revolution that did not engage in art. The last thing that I'll say before I pass it over to Leon is this. I know that art and artists and culture workers is absolutely critical to being in the world that I want to live in. I know that. And what artists do is magic to me. It's beautiful. I love it. It inspires me. I have no idea how they do it. I need art as a revolutionary. I need artists and culture workers as part of it. Not just because I want to enjoy art like every other human being does, but as a revolutionary, I need Leon, Jonathan, and every other artist to actually be successful. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Leon.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to put my timer because we don't have a lot of time. So.
I'll let you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you everyone and welcome. My name is Leon Villagomez, and today I'm am here to share with you a little story. And this story, I believe, is about passion, it's about courage, but also it's about hope. That is the most important thing for me to share with you. And this story starts in 1994, the summer of 1994. I was 13 years old, living in my hometown, Guadalajara, Mexico, the place where I was born and raised. And as a teenager, you know, we all being teenagers, and at age 13, I started being more aware of my surroundings. And my surroundings at the time, in the political aspect, I was living in a country, I don't know if you know a little bit about Mexican history, but in the 90s, we were still living in a political scenario where the president was the main person around. Like, we have exactly the same political system that in the US. We have our Congress, we have our Senate, we have our president, our judges. But at the time, the president was the main person. Doesn't matter what the Congress or everyone else said, the president had the last word, right? And we've been living with that system for over 70 years. Opposition was not even in the scene. It was just like, if you were opposition, people would laugh about you, right? And in 1994, that was election time, and the story goes 1 year before when my father decided to join the opposition party. So, and when I say like opposition was a joke, it was not just a joke, it was a little bit dangerous. Like, if you talk against government, they could go to your house, send police, and start asking you questions. You could get arrested, and in like really, really like extreme cases, people won't see you ever, right? And this is true. Oh, sorry, yeah, thank you. So that being said, my father decided to join the opposition party and start taking me with him into like meetings and other things. I was 13 years old, right? I couldn't even vote at the time. But there were things that they were exciting, especially being part of the opposition, you know, like as a teenager, you're against like the government, make you feel excited. I think I didn't really realize the risk of that. But that was a full year at that point, but that was still not my thing. I was doing other things, I was joining my dad in some meetings, but there was one day in particular that changed the entire way that I see things. And my dad said, all right, Leon, I think you are old enough to go and do this thing with me. So one night, I joined my father and a group of other guys that at the time I see them really old. I think now they were maybe in their early 20s, but for me they were just like older people. And my dad said, okay, we're gonna be doing this thing. If something happened tonight, I just want you to go home quickly, right? And I was like, well, what's going on? So my father was taking me to do political graffiti in the streets. And the thing to do political graffiti at those days, it was not just the graffiti that you do here, right? Like, we actually had the permit of the people to paint in their walls. A lot of the times we needed to pay. And because opposition was not a thing, if police or someone comes to the house where you paint, they'll just say like, oh, I didn't know they were painting that, so they just paint the back, no problem. But if you were the one painting it, you could be in trouble. So I was excited, but what was magical about it is that these guys, with really small resources, all that we had was strings, pencil, and paint. That was all that we had. And maybe some sponges. Okay. So the guy who was there leading started making the circles of the logo, started making lines, I was helping everything, and he was just cultivating being part of that art scene, like making art, messages, political messages. That totally got me involved. And I thought that was wonderful. So for the rest of the summer, we spent the nights, because we needed to do it in the nights, doing political graffiti, taking ladders, and going up in the electric post, putting pamphlets. And we became that force that started talking to the people, right? And the magical thing was like those paintings, those graffitis, those messages, they were inspiring for me, right? So what I wanted to say, I was 13 election, we lost the presidency. We didn't win it. But we won my city, we won my state. The opposition won for the first time. And that pretty much paved the road. And in the next election, in 2000, for the first time after almost 80 years of feeling oppressed, we won the presidency. Right? And things start changing. Things are changing really quickly. So now I'm an American citizen. Last election, it was my first vote. And the last message that I'm going to say here, I see myself as that 13 years old that started doing political graffiti with my father and a group of guys. I was not too young to be involved. It's never, you're never going to be too young to be involved. Now, I'm really close to my 40s. For the first time in a new country, I'm able to have the right to vote and take decisions. I'm not too old for that. So you're never too young, you're never too old. Just get involved, do something for your country, and do it for what you believe. That's the only thing that I would like to say. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I wanted to remind you to send a sign-up sheet around. My name is Caroline Griffith, and I am currently the chairperson of the Northwest People's Alliance, which is a local progressive political organization, so we work a lot on electoral politics. I identify as an activist. Unlike David, I guess a few years ago I decided that my 30s are for training and my 40s are for revolution, so I don't quite identify as a revolutionary yet, but I'm on my way to being there. And in thinking about this workshop, I spent a lot of time talking about politics. I do spend a lot of time talking about art, and I've never really thought about how those two intersect in my life. And I think that my kind of like Leon, my political awakening and my art awakening happened around the same time. And it was in the years between September 11th and our involvement in the war in Iraq, when we invaded Iraq. And just living in Portland at that time, being a young person and seeing a lot of art, graffiti, street art, a lot of the non-traditional art that's kind of coming up from the bottom that helped me to get the vocabulary that I needed to articulate the things that I was feeling. You know, art is that language that's deep inside of us. It's not necessarily the verbal language, but it really helped me to not only make sense of the things that I was feeling and the rage and the helplessness, but also to feel like I was part of a larger movement. And I think that that is the intersection right there of art and politics. It is both mass movements. It is, we certainly have the establishment that is telling us what is acceptable politically, what is acceptable in terms of art, but the people can totally change that. We have that power as a mass of humans to dictate what's going to happen to us politically and also what's going to happen to us aesthetically. And I think that the aesthetic aspect really can bring people together, and that's where, like locally, as I'm thinking about what I would like to see moving forward in our community, and you know, we were talking about this workshop, and I'm very action-oriented. You know, I'm like, I want there to be an outcome. I want there to be a thing that we do afterwards. And I think that we really, as people who work on electoral politics, desperately need artists to help us to engage people. I think that there is a lot of, I know that there's a lot of disenchantment. A lot of people feel like they don't actually have a say. And we need artists to help us to engage all of those people and make them realize that they are part of something larger, and that we actually all, when we do come together, we can make good things happen. I've worked on a lot of electoral campaigns, most of them issue-based, because I've been fortunate enough to live in states where we have the initiative process, and individuals actually can decide what they want their laws to be, go out, gather petition signatures, and get enough people to vote for it. I've been really reluctant to ever work for a candidate. I worked against candidates, but because I just don't trust them. But I recently worked on Leslie Castellano's city council campaign, and it was the first time that I felt inspired to do so. And it was directly because she is an artist, because I have seen her perform. I've seen her do Buteau performances. I know what's in her soul, because she put it out there because she's an artist. And that gave me a lot of faith in who she is and what we could do going forward. And I also think that artists are visionaries. They have the ability to you have the ability to envision the ideal worlds, the things that we want to see happen, right? And to shift that paradigm. And right now, everything that we're doing is so fundamentally wrong in our system that we need a complete paradigm shift. And the only way that we're going to do that is with visionaries and people who are able to see things differently. And so to have that, and then people like myself at the service of those artists to help make that a reality, get those people elected, to pass those initiatives, to make it happen. But really, like, I would just like to appeal to every single one of you. Like, we need your help to engage people. Like, it is absolutely necessary. Like, we need you, and you need us, right? So we can all work together. And I think that's really, I get kind of goosebumpy when I think about the power of people. David earlier was screaming, whose streets are streets, and I was thinking about all the times that I've done that, and it really is magical, right? And the same thing with any sort of mass movement, right? When you look at a piece of art or a performance, and you can look around and be like, all of these people here, we're all connected and feeling the same thing. And that also happens at a political rally or election night when you're like, fuck yeah, you just did it. All of us did that together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you. You have 5 seconds left, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline. Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm an artist, and you guys probably heard my intro, so I won't say it again. But I just wanted to start off by sort of picking up a line that David talked about, how if you study any type of social or political movements, there hasn't been one absent of art. And I think the reason that is because art is how we express culture. Art is how you can sort of read into culture. I think it's even becoming more apparent to a lot of folks as sort of a lot of our things we see online, which is where we're spending more and more of our time, is very image-based. And I think you could even say that memes are units of culture. Like, they are not something superfluous, they are not something just out there, but they are something that we actually engage with, and the things that we sort of see in our online spaces actually play out in reality. We've seen that, like, we get relationships that way, and participate in relationships. Elections have been swayed this way or that way. There's been violence based off of things that happen online, so our online reality, and whatever you want to call where we are now, reality. It's increasingly all the same, and I don't even consider those things two separate, type of things. And so I think, with that being said, when you see art and you see art around issues, it's a thermometer of sorts. And I think as artists, as culture creators, we have the ability to sort of take our talents and to sort of create beauty, to create something, an image that sort of stops somebody who can we've all sort of had those experiences where we've seen something beautiful and it compels you to stop. I think as artists, we can use our talents to give it some depth, or to sort of really support somebody or something or a cause. And that's really sort of how I came into this work, is through using art. I will say that probably before Trump got elected, I was very much more of love reading books about political theory and movement, but it was more of something that I talked with my homies about at the bar, and didn't have a lot of really concrete action beyond just, going and voting and bitching, And so after Trump got elected, the things that I knew that are already happening seemed a lot more urgent. And with that, it just seemed like everything was on fire. And I was going to a lot of meetings. I was trying to figure out, what can I do in this moment of time where everything's on fire? How do I help put out this fire? And I was feeling really overwhelmed because I was like, I take this training to do this, or go over there, and everything required so much training. But I started just going to protests, I started photographing and making a little bit of art, and that's how I sort of started to figure out what I wanted to do sort of in our current political moment, is through art, because that was something that I knew that I could do I could say, oh, I know how to synthesize a bunch of thoughts and ideas and make something interesting, whether that was a painting, mixed media, or doing some graphic design things. And that was a way that I knew I was already really efficient at doing it. And I think that is a way that artists can be really involved in making the change that we want to see. So what I did, just the first project I did, I just took protest photographs and I turned them into postcards. So there was a ton of letter writing campaigns that were going on, as I think a lot of you are aware of. And I just started distributing them everywhere. I made 5,000 of them, and I just put them everywhere I could in Arcata, Eureka, little shops, or I just like leave them at bars. Sometimes I just like leave a stack and just like they disappear. And this is really how I got involved with David Co-op and Cooperation Humboldt. Probably a lot of the people that I'm working with now is sort of, and that is just doing something that was right in front of me. And I think that is what is particularly powerful about art, is its ability to be entirely classless. You can make art out of anything. If you have a paper plate and some ketchup packets, you can make some art. It doesn't really matter. So that's why I am so passionate about art and sort of this intersection. And for me, it also not just led to building organizations and doing, say, more like grassroots type work, but it also led me to do some more formal electoral politics stuff. I was also on Leslie Castellano's campaign, and I was the campaign art director, and so I got to listen to what was happening, what people in the community wanted, what the candidate wanted, what our team wanted, and sort of use my skills to sort of make that, attractive. That's a phrase David likes to use a lot, one of his favorite quotes. The role of the artist is to make the resistance? Revolution attractive. Irresistible. See? I mean, that's in it up. It's David's quote.
It's Tony Collette's quote, who David uses.
Yes.
I want to make sure you...
Am I out of time? Oh, yeah.
You do the concrete thing.
Oh, yeah. And so this is one of the things that we have coming up. We have Progressive Film Night. It's a film night that Cooperation Humboldt, in collaboration with Poly Yoga, does every month. Last month we did Art of the Steel, and it sort of talked about the value of art and sort of the battle over culture. This next one is a public painting film night, March 6th at 6:30, and you guys are interested in that. I don't know if you want to speak more about it.
Really sexy.
Super sexy.
Sometimes the words you're like,
Clearly the sexiest one of the presenters says public banking is sexy, so I'm just saying. The other thing I wanted to do is to, when I would do a flyer back in the day, it was black and white. It would have the name, the information, the time, contact information. It was very utilitarian. The information is there. People will be inspired to come. I started fucking with Jonathan, and he helped me.
As friends.
But I started to roll with Jonathan, and he helped me to think about, and frankly, he began to do it, where it's like, no, you actually have to inspire and entice people visually into a conversation. And I don't know if you want to just take a moment to literally share how you blocked this out and why you did what you did. Because it's still, it's magic, but I'm starting to get a peek behind the curtain of how artists work, and it's like, okay, I can't do the trick, but I totally see that it works. And this is an example of it to me.
Okay, I think maybe I might take a step back from this. So this is a Cooperation Humboldt event, and the Cooperation Humboldt art director. And sort of as that, I'm in charge of sort of helping define what it looks like and how to communicate our ideas, and also to help train some other starting off graphic designers, like Tamara is a great student. And so the thing that I think the interplay between doing art or graphic design in politics is the analytical part. And so when I approach a project like this is just one of many things that we're working on, is the evaluation method. And so what I wanted to do is create something that was interesting, that was friendly, and also sort of communicate a system to communicate all of Cooperation Humboldt's different program areas. How many programs? 8? We have 8 different program areas, and so that is a lot to communicate. It's easily very confusing. It's easily just like, if you throw everything that you do on a page, like it's almost nothing, you know? Like nobody's just gonna read through a really long list. And so I think sort of, for me, taking those skills and applying it to more theory has really both enriched my political practice and my art practice equally. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jonathan. So, because we got such a great crowd and so many people, what we're doing is pairing.
Yes, well, we were going to split up into a couple of groups and have one artist and one activist facilitating a group discussion. So it'll be Jonathan and I, and Leon and David as different pairs. And we would have to be back here into this room and have to stay here and just discuss what it is we do going forward. Yes, Tamara?
Before we do that, could you take like just 2 minutes, either you and or David, to throw out a few more tangible things besides the movie night? Like if people do feel inspired to plug into something, like I just wonder if there's a
Hit us with North Coast People's Alliance, Caroline.
Yeah, so the North Coast People's Alliance, what's that? Eileen? No, Eileen is also in the North Coast People's Alliance. So we work on progressive political issues of social justice, racial justice, economic and environmental justice. We really killed it this last election. Every single one of every candidate but one that we endorsed, and the 2 issues that we endorsed, which were groundbreaking. It was No on M and the Measure K, which was the sanctuary initiative, worked really hard to help get those passed. And we are currently doing a bi-monthly canvas, going door to door and talking to people in Eureka and points a little south of Eureka, talking to them about what it is that they think that their community needs, what their government could be doing better for them, and just kind of testing the waters and seeing. And that's something that I think is really inspiring about NCPA, is that it is not just, we know what's right for everybody, so we're going to go out and do what's right for everybody, but we're actually asking people what is right for them to make sure that we are actually a movement of the people. So we are, if it doesn't rain, we're going to be going out tomorrow to go canvas, meeting at 12:30 at the Labor Temple in Eureka, but it's something you can just follow us on Facebook and find out about that. That is the main thing we have going on. And our next meeting is, our general meeting is the 17th or the 16th?
There was the 3rd Saturday of the month at 10 at the Labor Temple.
Yep. Yes.
Canvassing is fun.
It is really fun, yeah. Canvassing is super duper fun, and it makes you feel really great about humanity.
And if you're not into canvassing, like when elections come closer, there's phone banking, there's
Yes.
cabling, there's all sorts.
There's lots of other things.
You might have already mentioned this, I'm sorry, but if we can't necessarily volunteer right now, but are interested in doing it at a later date or later in the year, is there a website or email?
Yes. Yes, so you can either contact us on our Facebook page, or the website is northcoastpeoplesalliance.org, and there's a contact button on that as well.
There's also some stuff in the lobby, and I'm assuming there's a sign-up sheet for North Coast
is.
People's Alliance. It's separate from the one that you did when you came in, which is for Cooperation Humboldt. But if you go back to the lobby,
Yeah, totally.
Also, tomorrow, people that haven't ever gone canvassing before, you'll be going out with somebody that has, so you can, you wouldn't even have to worry about it, just kind of see what goes on.
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
yeah, it is super fun. I can't even express it enough. And I know people, y'all look real skeptical, but it's actually super fun and effective.
Yeah, I see that. All right, you ready to bring people up in?
Right, so from Eileen here, Jonathan and Caroline are going to have this conversation. Leon and I are going to ask you to bring your seat with you, and let's come back here. And